Good evening and welcome to Express Tribune's 10 p.m. bulletin. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is set to depart for Tehran on Wednesday to attend the funeral of slain Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi. Raisi died in a helicopter crash on May 19. The Prime Minister's office announced that PM Shehbaz will participate in the funeral ceremony, where leaders from around the world, including Muslim-majority countries, are expected to attend. Raisi was killed along with several others in the helicopter crash in the northern part of the country. The Pakistani government had expressed its condolences to the Iranian government and people. PM Shehbaz announced that Pakistan will observe a day of mourning and the flag will fly at half-mast as a mark of respect for President Raisi and his companions. Pakistan had hosted President Raisi and Foreign Minister Hussein Amir Abdullahian on a historic visit just a month ago. PM Shehbaz remembered them as good friends of Pakistan. Iran has declared 5 days of mourning, with tomorrow being a public holiday. A large funeral will take place in Tehran, led by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. Raisi will be buried in his hometown of Mashhad on Thursday, with Friday being the final day of official mourning. The French Foreign Ministry says it has broken ranks with its Western allies, showing support for ICC plans to issue arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister and Defense Minister, as well as the leaders of Hamas. It added that France supports the International Criminal Court, its independence, and the fight against impunity in all situations. The ministry also said it has been cautioning for many months about the necessity for strict adherence to international humanitarian laws, particularly about the unacceptable level of civilian casualties in the Gaza city and the lack of humanitarian access. France's decision represents a significant departure from the position of its Western allies, such as the UK and Italy, as well as the US, where President Joe Biden denounced the decision as outrageous. France stands out as one of the few Western nations willing to adopt a firmer stance on Israel, including criticizing the US veto of ceasefire resolutions in the UN Security Council and advocating for an immediate ceasefire. A local Islamabad court has acquitted PTI founder Imran Khan in 3 cases, including the May 9 riots case. The acquittals include a case related to violations of Section 144 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. The court also acquitted former federal ministers Sheikh Rashid and Faisal Javed, as well as several other PTI leaders, in cases related to riots and violation of Section 144. The verdict stated that the evidence on record is not sufficient to prove the allegations against Imran Khan. It added that an accused cannot be deprived of their legal rights without a cause. The Punjab Assembly passed the Punjab Defamation Bill 2024 amid strong opposition by protesters who demanded the bill be revised for perceived constitutional conflicts. Critics labelled the law draconian, fearing it would parallel the system and infringe on free speech. Despite opposition, Punjab Advocate General Khalid Ishaq defended the bill as a measure to curb false news by making accusers provide evidence. The session concluded with journalists and the Punjab Assembly Press Gallery boycotting the proceedings, and the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan criticized the bill for potentially violating judicial norms and freedom of expression. Pakistan and Turkey are looking to increase their annual bilateral trade to $5 billion. The countries are also intensifying their defense collaboration. Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar said the two sides agreed to boost trade to $5 billion in 3 years. The statement followed Turkish Foreign Minister's meeting with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Ishaq Dar in Islamabad. Pakistan and Turkey have a long history of defense collaboration. They have also supported each other on core issues. Currently, the annual trade volume is just $1 billion. The two countries also discussed regional and global issues, including the ongoing crisis in Gaza. Israeli President Isaac Herzog believes a normalization of relations with Saudi Arabia could be a historic game-changer in the Middle East. Herzog said normalizing ties with Saudi Arabia could bring about tremendous change and be a victory over the empire of evil. He emphasized that Israel's enemies are trying to destroy its international connections. Meanwhile, the United States has described a bilateral defense pact with Saudi Arabia as near final. Once completed, it would be part of a broader deal presented to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to decide whether to make concessions to secure a normalization of ties with Riyadh. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is in Vienna, praising a joint letter from Austria and 14 other EU countries to find new ways to handle undocumented migrants. The letter calls for easier deportation of asylum seekers to third countries. Conservative Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer says Austria fully supports the British approach. Under the UK's plan, irregular arrivals will be denied asylum and sent to Rwanda instead. The 15 countries want the EU to toughen its asylum and migration pact. They're seeking to reduce irregular migration and make it easier to send asylum seekers to third countries while their requests are assessed. The letter was signed by Austria, Bulgaria, Cyprus and 11 other countries, but France, Germany and Spain did not join the effort. US President Joe Biden has once again come to the defense of Israel, claiming that Israeli forces are not committing genocide in their military campaign against Hamas militants in Gaza. Biden made the comments at a Jewish American Heritage Month event at the White House. During the event, he stressed that Israel is the victim. He also emphasized that US support for Israel's safety and security is ironclad and vowed to continue trying to gain the release of sick, elderly and wounded hostages still held by Hamas. The US president rejected the International Criminal Court's prosecutors' request for arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense chief over war crimes allegations. South Africa's Constitutional Court has ruled that former President Jacob Zuma is barred from running for parliament in this month's election. The court found that Zuma's 15-month jail sentence for contempt of court in 2021 disqualified him from standing in the May 29 election, since the country's constitution prohibited anyone given a prison sentence of 12 months or longer from holding a parliamentary seat. Zuma, who was forced to quit as president in 2018, has fallen out with the governing African National Congress. He has been campaigning for a new party named after the ANC's former armed wing, MK. Opinion polls suggest the ANC's majority is at risk after 30 years in power, and MK represents a real threat, especially in Zuma's home province where he is popular. Meta reportedly approved a series of AI-manipulated political adverts during India's election that spread disinformation and incited religious violence. The adverts were created by India Civil Watch International and ECO, corporate accountability organization. They were designed to test Meta's mechanisms for detecting and blocking political content could prove inflammatory or harmful. A Guardian exclusive report found that 14 of the 22 adverts submitted were approved. The approval came despite the inclusion of AI-manipulated images and language that went against Meta's community standards, hate speech and violence. The adverts included known slurs towards Muslims, Hindu supremacist language and disinformation about political leaders. One advert even called for the execution of an opposition leader, falsely claiming they wanted to erase Hindus from India. OpenAI chief Sam Altman apologized to Scarlett Johansson after she said she was shocked by a new synthetic voice that sounds eerily similar to hers. The voice of Sky is part of OpenAI's latest GPT 4.0 technology. Johansson expressed outrage, saying she was shocked, angered, and in disbelief that Altman would create a voice so similar to hers, noting he had previously offered to hire her to create a synthetic voice for Sky. The company says it is working to pause Sky, explaining that the voice is not an imitation of Scarlett Johansson but belongs to a different professional actress using her own natural speaking voice. The dream of one more match between Andy Murray and Novak Djokovic has ended as Murray tumbled out of the Geneva Open on his comeback from an ankle injury. Wildcard Murray was 7-5, 4-1 down to Yannick Hanfmann when a thunderstorm lashed the grounds on Monday. They resumed today with the German world number 85 taking little more than 10 minutes to win the second set 6-2. Tennis fans had been relishing what could perhaps have been the last match between members of the Big Four who have dominated men's tennis this century: Djokovic, Murray, Rafael Nadal and the now retired Roger Federer. Instead, Hanfmann will now face world number 1 Djokovic in the second round on Wednesday.